Hi all, we are going to discuss the mock test session 2 of Theory of Prelims, mock test 23. So we are going to discuss the answers of this particular mock test. So as we have already discussed in the previous sessions and the previous mock test, I hope you might have already got an idea regarding how to prepare economics, what are the type of questions that UPSC asks in economics part. Okay, and I hope you're moving in the right direction now. So we'll just start with our our discussion session here. So the first question here that we are going to discuss is about the marginal cost of funding based lending rate, and there are certain statements related to it. It is an interbank lending rate at which overnight loans can be availed by banks to meet liquidity. Now, MCLR question was asked by UPSC in 2016, and as it was introduced at that particular point of time. Now, when I discussed that particular question in our theory of prelims session, I've already asked you to look forward to that of external benchmarking as well, as it is important. Okay, please don't forget about that. I'm just reminding you once again related to the importance of external benchmarking. Now here in this question, as you people might have already prepared related to MCLR and how that particular cost of how that particular lending rate is calculated under MCLR, you already have an idea that it is MCLR means it is a mechanism to fix the lending rate of banks, right? It is nothing related to that of interbank lending rate. Right, it is a mechanism for a particular bank to fix their lending rate. The minimum level of lending rate will be fixed by the banks based on MCLR. Right, so this particular statement will be wrong. It has nothing to do with the interbank lending rate market or interbank market. Now, the second statement given here is related to that of it improves the transmission of monetary policy rates into the lending rates of banks. That's actually correct because banks will have to revise their MCLR every month, right? And as a result, there will be possibility of the monetary policy transmissions to take place better in MCLR. However, when you take that in a practical sense, in reality, it did not lead to higher levels of monetary policy transmission. As a result, RBI is moving towards external benchmarking. So you have to understand that, but this is theoretically correct, right? Then it is fixed by RBI on a daily basis. Now that is also wrong. It is not fixed by the RBI, it is fixed by a bank based on certain parameters such as the operating expenses, right? Then they will be taking into account negative carry on CRR. We have discussed that. Then marginal cost of funds that they get. Then finally, tenor premium. Right, so these are the important aspects that are covered under MCLR. So it is not fixed by RBI and it is not on a daily basis. So that is with the first question. So answer is to only D. Clear? Now next is the second question. Now in case of the second question, they have asked about which one of the following best describes the term greenfield project. Now there are two types of projects that are mostly discussed: greenfield projects and brownfield projects. Now, in case of greenfield projects, as you know, it is projects involving development of previously undeveloped sites. So if we are actually developing a new site, which is not developed in any manner, that is known as greenfield investment. Suppose we are planning to start an airport in a particular area where there is no airport at all. That is a greenfield project. Now, what is uh, brownfield project? Brownfield project means those projects which are carried out at a particular area where the projects are already running. For example, there is another airport and government is planning to expand that airport. Government is planning to improve the capacity of that airport. That is a brownfield investment. There is already an airport, so we are going to expand it. So that is a brownfield, and greenfield means we are developing a new airport. So answer is A. Next, third one, which of the following is the impact of a US businessman purchasing government securities in India? So it is based on external sector. The question is asked on the basis of the chapter external sector. Now here, increase the balance on capital account, increase the balance on current account, increase the budget deficit, decrease the balance of current account in India. Now in this case, you can easily eliminate this option because see, purchasing government securities has nothing to do with increase the budget deficit, right? So it has something to do with the investments and it has something to do with the balance of payment. So in this case, US businessmen purchasing government securities comes under investments, right? They are making investments into the country. Now, is investment part of capital account or current account? Capital or current? Now, as you already know, investments means it is long-term in nature. The entire transaction takes longer period of time, right? That particular person makes investments, he or she will hold that particular investment for a longer period of time, and then after a particular point, they will be taking back their investment. So the entire transaction, that entire cycle or circle of transaction will take much larger time. So it is long-term. So it is capital account, right? So all the options with current account can also be eliminated. Answer is A, that is increase the balance of capital account in India. So that will be the correct answer. So third one, A is the correct answer. I hope it's clear because investments, as you know, it is part of capital account. So increase in investments means there will be increase in balance of capital account. Now, which of the following is or are the objectives of Monetary Policy Framework Agreement? Now, Monetary Policy Framework Agreement was introduced in order to bring certain kind of responsibility, accountability with related to that of monetary policy. And we have followed monetary policy committee. We have mentioned or we have set up a monetary policy committee under new monetary policy framework agreement. Now, the major aim of monetary policy framework agreement, one is to maintain price stability. That is correct because the major aim of monetary policy is to reduce inflation, to bring price stability. So that will be correct, right? Now, the second statement, reduction in total expenditure as a percentage of GDP. Now, the expenditure is something that is related to fiscal policy. RBI has nothing to do with what, or monetary policy has nothing to do with the expenditure made by the government. So as a result, it will not come as part of monetary policy framework agreement. Now, next is improvement in gross tax revenue as percentage of GDP. Now, gross tax revenue is also something related to that of fiscal policy, right? So that will also not come under the monetary policy framework agreement. So you can actually check in this particular manner also, because all those things that are connected to that of monetary policy will only be included under monetary policy framework agreement, right? So anything that has to do with fiscal policy will not have any relation to it. Hence, you can eliminate 2 and 3, statements 2 and 3, and hence answer is B1 only. Now we'll move on to the fifth question. Purchase of gold is widely viewed as a long-term measure of protection against inflation. What are the reasons? Now, when it comes to that of the gold, when it comes to that of the measure of protection against inflation, you have to understand that why do people actually invest in gold and other kinds of assets? Right, instead of keeping in cash, instead of investing or depositing that in bank account, people wish to hold their essence, hold their money in the form of assets, such as that of land, gold, etc. Why do they do that? Now, the simple first one, gold prices are easily controlled by fiscal policy instruments. Is it like that? No, because gold prices are influenced internationally. It is not through national measures or domestic measures, right? It is decided internationally. So as a result, that it cannot be considered, it cannot be controlled by fiscal policy instruments. So that will be wrong, right? That statement itself does not have any logic. So you can eliminate them easily. Value of gold remains constant over a longer period of time. Now, the recent example itself is enough for you to eliminate the statement because the gold prices keeps on shifting, right? Compared to last year, there is significant increase in the value of gold because around like last year it was less than 30,000 per sovereign, right? Now, coming to this year, it is around like, or present time, I guess it's more than 40,000 per sovereign for gold, right? So the prices have increased over the period. Then erosion of value of gold is unlikely in an inflationary environment. Now that has some kind of logic in that, right? So because people are reluctant or people are hesitating to keep their cash in the form of cash itself, or store their money in that particular form itself because of worry of inflation. Because when there is inflation, what happens is value of money will go down. So if there are higher levels of inflation, what happens? The amount of money that they hold, it will start losing its value, and that is not, kind of acceptable, or that is not preferred by the people as such. So instead, what they do is they actually purchase assets such as gold, land, so that these assets will not lose their value based on inflation. They will be able to maintain the value of the amount that they held or that they hold. Okay, so that is one reason, and it will be correct. So in order to protect the value of their amount, instead of keeping it as cash or keeping it in the form of cash, they will try to keep it or store that in the form of certain assets such as land, gold, etc. Now that is why more and more people are interested in investing in gold. So answer is C. Now, what is or are the most likely advantages of disinvestment of public sector enterprises? Now, what is the most likely, advantages? Helps to raise budgetary resources of the government. That is correct, because our finance minister have told that the main aim of government through this kind of disinvestment is also to raise more money for the government, right? So that will be correct. It enables efficient management of public investments in PSE. That is also correct, because if we carry out this investment, we will be introducing the partnership of private players. Now, when private players start engaging in these businesses, they will bring more efficiency to the business. As a result, the remaining value or the remaining public investment will be more efficient in nature. Clear, and it will start creating more profit in normal cases. So efficiency of the public sector or the public investments in public sector enterprise can be protected. At the same time, budgetary resources can also be generated. Now, delisting of PSEs from the stock exchanges in India, that doesn't have any kind of logic, right? Because if public sector enterprises, if it is disinvested, that doesn't mean that it will be delisted from the stock exchanges in India. It will continue to be listed in the stock exchange itself. It's just that the ownership have actually changed. So that's it. So answer is 1 and 2, D. Clear. Now, seventh one, in the context of Indian economy, which among the following is following likely results in inflation? Increase in statutory liquidity ratio. Will increase in statutory liquidity ratio lead to inflation? No. Why? Because when statutory liquidity ratio is increased, that means amount available with the banks to lend is actually reducing, right? So amount available with the bank reduces with increasing statutory liquidity ratio. As a result, it will not lead to inflation. It is part of contractionary monetary policy. Money supply will be less. It is part of tight monetary policy. Increase in goods and service tax. Now that will lead to inflation, because when the tax rates increases, the prices of products increases, that will lead to higher levels of inflation. Increase in income tax rate. Now increase in income tax rate will lead to lower disposable income with the people, right? People will have lower levels of disposable income. Disposable income means income that is available with them to spend. That will reduce, because out of the salary that they get, they will have to pay higher taxes. So the remaining amount left with them will be low. As a result, it will reduce inflation instead of increasing inflation. So 1 and 3 can be eliminated. Answer is 2 only. So B is the answer. Now, eighth one, in the Indian financial market term, securitization is best described as. Now, this is a particular type of question that UPSC likes to ask related to that of term. Now, securitization is usually seen in banking terms. It is also applicable in all other corporate terms also. Now, what does securitization mean? Securitization means that certain banks, what they do is they will try to securitize their loan. Now, how do they securitize their loan? They will combine all the auto loans. For example, I'm giving you an example. Okay, so suppose a particular bank have given automobile loans. Now all automobile loans that is given by the bank will be combined together, and they will make it as a financial instrument. Suppose the entire automobile loans given by the bank amounts to 100 crore. Now they will they will combine it. So total is 100 crore. Now that they will convert into a financial instrument of suppose 1 crore each. And they will sell this instrument to the public or the investors. Now those investors who are purchasing this particular instrument, they will get or they will be getting returns on it in the form of interest paid by the borrowers. So I'll repeat it once again. Banking institutions securitize, or all the various financial institutions also do this particular process. Now what they do is they will combine certain types of loans that they have provided. They will combine it, they will consolidate it, and they will convert it into a financial instrument. Now how do they do that? For that example I'm giving for this particular auto loan. Now certain financial institutions, they will combine or consolidate all the automobile loans that they have provided. Suppose it is total amounting to 100 crore. Now this 100 crore will be split into different financial instruments of 1 crore each. And this financial instrument can be sold to the investors. So once investors purchase this financial instrument, they will get returns in the form of interest, because all those people who have taken auto loans will be paying interest to the bank. That interest will be given to the investors by the bank. Clear? Now, why do they securitize? By doing the securitization, banks will have better liquidity. They will have access to more capital with them, because they are selling all the loans that they have provided to different borrowers, right? They are selling it to certain other investors. So when investors pay that amount, banks are getting access to higher levels of capital. Now, investors are also gaining from it because they get access to the interest. They have returns from it. So that is known as securitization. So here, act where a borrower pledges an asset as recourse to the lender in the event that borrower defaults on the initial loan. This is known as credit swap. Credit default swap. Clear? Now that is not securitization. The process in which shares of a company are sold to institutional investors that in turn sell to general public on a securities exchange. Now that is not correct. That is related to that of merchant banking and as well as underwriting of shares. Okay. Now, the process by which a company clubs its different financial assets or debts to form a consolidated financial instrument. Now, that is securitization. Now, this is the correct answer. Clear? Now, which of the following is or are the advantages of using consumer price index as a measure of inflation? Now, CPI combined is our current measure of inflation, right? So it adjusts for improvements in quality of goods and services. Now, CPI has nothing to do with the quality of goods and services. It only deals with the price or the quantity, right? It has nothing to do with the quality of goods and services. See, you have to read each and every word given in the question. Then only you will be able to understand, you will be able to find out what is the mistake in the question, right? So here the quality aspect is wrong. As a result, you can eliminate this because CPI has nothing to do with the quality of the goods or the services. It exactly rotten tomato. That exactly is a kind of extreme statement or extreme word. It exactly reflects the buying power of consumers. No, it does not actually exactly reflect the buying power of consumers. How does it exactly reflect? It just gives a kind of an idea, an approximate idea, or it will give only an average, because there are different types of consumers, different levels of consumers with different levels of income, right? So it will not give, or it will not provide us with an exact idea or reflection related to that of the purchasing or the buying power of consumers. Now, it provide accurate, again accurate, extreme word, measure of the buying habits of different demographic groups. Now, in case of CPI, it does not take into account the demographic groups. It only classifies into CPI rural as well as CPI urban. Another important division in consumer price index is related to that of industrial workers, right, rural laborers, agricultural laborers, etc. It has nothing to do with, or it does not separately calculate the buying habits of demographic groups. So you have to understand that these kind of extreme words need to be noted down. Mostly extreme words will go wrong. So answer is none. None of the statements given above are correct. Now, which one of the following can offset the effects of inflation on the price competitiveness of a country's product? Okay, so which one of the following can offset the effects of inflation? Now, suppose there is inflation in an economy, and suppose the prices or the cost of production actually increased. In that case, if cost of production has increased, what happened? The prices of the product in international market will tend to increase, right? Because as the cost of production have increased, they will have to sell it at higher prices to get profit. But at the same time, you have to understand that even though there is inflation, the impact of inflation can be, it can be kind of leveled, it can be offset by depreciation in currency without them having to increase their prices to make profit. They will get better returns due to depreciation of currency. I'll give you an example. Suppose there is a product which is sold for $100 and the exchange rate was $1 is equal to 70. As a result, the returns that or the amount that company got over a product was, or the revenue that the company earned was 7,000 rupee per product. Now, if suppose 500 rupee was profit for the company, then what will happen? They are happy to sell it at 7,000, cost us 6,500. Now, suppose there is inflation in the economy and the cost of production becomes 7,000. Now, what will happen? If they want to earn some profit, they will have to sell it at higher prices. If suppose they want to earn the same level of profit, they will have to sell it at 7,500 rupee. Now, 7,500, if they want to get 7,500 rupee, that means they will have to sell for more than $100. That's 70 rupee per dollar, right? So, what happened? Now, in this case, as there is depreciation of currency, because we have learned that when there is inflation in an economy, that will lead to depreciation on the other hand, right? So, on that depreciation, suppose $1 becomes 75. What happened? Now, $100 will fetch 7,500 instead of 7,000. And that particular person wanted to sell their product at 7,500 in order to get 500. Right? So they don't have to change the prices of the product. They are selling it at 100 only. But due to depreciation of currency, they are getting 7,500. As a result, the inflation, the impact of inflation is offset. They are getting the same level of profit and they are selling it at the same level of prices internationally. Is it clear? So depreciation of currency will offset. Now, with reference to priority sector lending, consider the following statement. Priority sector lending targets are applicable for regional rural banks only. Rotten tomato, this is wrong, because anyone who know the basics of priority sector lending know that priority sector lending targets are applicable to commercial banks, small finance banks, regional rural banks, etc. Right? So that is wrong. PSL cannot be availed for agricultural infrastructure. Is it right? No, it is wrong, because we have the sub target, because out of the 40%, 18% is meant for agriculture. Right? The target of PSL for the commercial banks is 40%, and out of 40%, 80% is 18% is for agriculture, and it includes agricultural infrastructure also. So you have to understand that both the statements given here are wrong. So answer is B. Now, commodity futures market in India is regulated by SEBI. Earlier it was Forward Markets Commission. Forward Markets Commission that actually regulated commodity futures market, but by around 2016, SEBI, the Forward Markets Commission was merged with that of SEBI, and now SEBI is the regulator for commodity futures market. Is it clear? Sorry. Yeah. So, Forward Markets Commission is the regulator of commodity futures market. Now, next is, which of the following would lead to increase in money supply in the economy? Now, fiscal consolidation measures. Now, fiscal consolidation measure means government is either reducing its expenditure or is trying to increase its receipts, right? Reducing expenditure or increasing receipts. Now, in that sense, what will happen? It will lead to lower money supply, because when they want to increase the receipts, they might increase the taxes, right? Now, if they want to reduce the expenditure, means they are spending less in the economy. As a result, money supply in the economy will go down. So this option, this statement will be wrong. Increase in foreign investments in Indian bonds. Now, when there is increase in foreign investments in Indian bonds, that will lead to higher levels of money supply, because we are getting more investments. Investments inflow into the country is increasing, that have the capability of increasing money supply in the economy, right? Now, increase in cash reserve ratio. Now, if there is increase in cash reserve ratio, amount available with the banks to lend will come down. When amount available with the banks to invest comes down, that is part of tight money policy or contractionary monetary policy. That will reduce the availability of credit. When there is lesser availability of credit, that will lead to lesser investments and lesser money supply in the economy. So as a result, what happened? You have to eliminate third statement as well. So answer becomes C. See, do try to connect all the important concepts that you study. Try to apply them in the question paper itself by using, like, see, go through the given conditions and try to apply your concepts there. So increase in cash reserve ratio means cash reserve ratio has increased, so availability of credit will be low. Availability of credit low means lower investments. Lower investments means lower money supply. Increase in foreign investments means higher investments, so that itself will lead to higher money supply, right? So answer is C. Now, 14th one, which among the following can be the possible consequences of reduction in statutory liquidity ratio? So if suppose SLR is reduced, so what will happen? Huge increase in foreign capital inflow. Now, reduction in SLR, does it have any relation to that of foreign capital inflow? It does not have any relation, right? Foreign capital inflow is related to various other aspects, such as that of the returns that can be earned from Indian stock market. It depends upon the business conditions, business environment in the country, etc. It has nothing to do with statutory liquidity ratio. So, first statement is wrong. Now, next is availability of cheaper credit for borrowers. Now, that is correct, because when statutory liquidity ratio is reduced, what happened? The amount available with the banks will increase. That means credit supply will increase. When demand remaining the same, credit supply, when it increases, what happened? The interest rates will come down. So when interest rates come down, cheaper credit will be available. We have discussed that in detail when we have discussed, or when we like when I took the theory of prelims section, right? So we have discussed all those aspects there, like how that particular things change, etc. Now next is increase in investments in the economy. Now, when there is lower or cheaper credit available in the economy, that will directly lead to higher levels of investments. So 2 and 3 will be correct. See, I have dealt with these kind of questions. I have discussed the concept of these level questions during the session. So I'm not going to repeat that whole thing once again. I hope you guys still remember. If you don't remember, do try to watch the session, that particular part again, and come back and do try this question. Clear? So availability of cheaper credit, because credit supply is increasing. When credit supply increases, credit rate will actually come down. When credit demand increases, what happened? Interest rate will go up, right? So it is similar to that of how prices behave related to demand and supply, right? In case of prices, what happened? When there is increase in demand, prices will increase. When there is increase in supply, what will happen? Prices will go down. So similar thing happens in case of rate also. Now, 15th one, in the context of Union Budget 2021 dividend distribution tax. So, in the budget 2021, there are various changes associated with dividend distribution tax. In 1997 budget, the government introduced dividend distribution tax, and it was applicable only for the domestic companies. And the domestic companies will have to pay dividend distribution tax at rate of 15% of the dividend that they distribute, right? So they will have to pay 15% taxes on the dividend that they distribute, and that was introduced in 1997. It was applicable to domestic companies. In 2020-21 budget, government have actually put hold or put an end to dividend distribution tax. No longer companies will have to pay dividend distribution tax. Companies are free of paying this. This is another important financial package that was introduced by the government during this budget to boost the corporate activity in the country, to boost economic activity in the country, right? It is expected to, have an impact on the revenue of government to the range of 20 to 30,000 crores. But government believes that these kind of activities will attract more investors into the economy. So dividend distribution tax is no longer applicable. So the statement given here is wrong. It is not increased. Instead, it is taken off. Now, income received by an individual as dividend from an Indian company is exempted from income tax. That is wrong. Earlier, when dividend distribution tax was there, before this particular 2020-21 budget, those people who received dividend up to 10 lakh did not have to pay any taxes, any income tax on the dividend that they received. So I'm just talking from, see, dividend distribution tax is paid by the companies, but the dividend that they distribute is to the individuals, right? So all those shareholders, all those individuals who receive dividends, if their total dividend is less than 10 lakh per year, they did not have to pay any taxes, any income tax on the dividend that they received. But now, as government have taken away dividend distribution tax, the liability is now on the individual shareholder who received dividend. Now, all the dividend that they receive now will be liable for income tax. So, whatever dividends that they get will be calculated along with the total income, and they will have to pay the necessary taxes over that income. Clear? So the statement is also wrong because they are not exempted. They will have to pay taxes. So answer is D, neither one nor two. Next, which of the following is or are possible consequences of pro-crony policies in an economy? Now this question is from Economic Survey. Economic Survey have discussed about pro-crony capitalism, right? So in that part itself, Economic Survey mentioning that pro-crony policies means government favoring only few businesses. When government favor few business houses or few corporates, that is known as pro-crony policies. Instead of having or instead of promoting competitive business environment in an economy, if government selectively the government selectively supports or favors few corporates, that kind of policy is known as pro-crony policy. According to Economic Survey, they have mentioned that earlier Indian economy or earlier the system or the governments were pro-crony in nature, whereby they selectively supported and favored few large corporates. As a result, there is decrease in competition. So the statement given here is wrong. See, please go through the summary of Economic Survey. We have uploaded that in the channel and in the groups. So you please go through that particular summary of Economic Survey. That will be useful. So increased competition, no, it is reduction or reduced competition in the market due to pro-crony policies by the government. Now next is restriction on imports of competitive goods. That is correct. Now what happened is in pro-crony policies, what happened is in order to support, in order to promote certain businesses, what government did is they restricted imports of certain goods that was competition for them. So that is correct. Enforcement of business accountability. There was lack of enforcement of business accountability as part of pro-crony policies. Right? Pro-crony policy means it is kind of favoring certain few large corporates. As a result, there is no accountability, there is reduced competition, etc. So answer is 2 only, C. Okay. Now, 17th one, trade receivables e-discount system. Now, when it comes to trade receivables e-discounting system, as you already know, it is related to that of MSME sector. I'm not going to explain what is trade receivables e-discount. I'll just give you an idea. It is, see, various MSMEs, they will be selling products on credit, right? Especially those MSMEs who are supplying raw materials to other businesses, they will be making their selling or their sales on credit. Now, for that sales that they carry out, they will get the trade receivables, right? The bill of exchange, etc. Now, trade receivables e-discounting system is a mechanism which allows them to discount those bills, those commercial bills that they get. Clear? So MSMEs, when they are able to discount or when they are given an opportunity to discount their commercial bills, that is the bills that they get on credit sales, and they can discount it through online. So such mechanism is known as TREDS or trade receivables e-discounting system. So answer is B here. Now, which of the following crops are covered under price stabilization fund? Rice, onion, potatoes, and pulses. Now, price stabilization fund, as you, if you don't know, is introduced to bring price stabilization in certain products which are perishable in nature. So earlier it was introduced to have price controls or to control or stabilize the prices of products such as onion and potato. But later on, pulses was also added in that particular list. So hence answer is 2, 3, and 4. Rice is not coming under price stabilization fund. Now, next is which of the following statement is correct regarding India's economic performance after 1991 reforms? Now, as I have mentioned, these questions, for example, trades as well as price stabilization fund, these are the questions that are picked from economic survey because these questions are related to or these kind of topics were discussed in the economic survey. That is why these questions are picked up. Now, 19th question is again from economic survey because this year's economic survey have discussed about India's economic performance after 1991 reforms, and the question is related to that. India's share in world export has increased. Now, just imagine 1991 reforms. After that, do you think India's share in exports might have increased? Yes, of course, might have increased. Why? Because what is there? Because of the services industry, right? And overall, in case of goods also, there are some kind of improvements, even though that is not very large or very huge. Exports of services grew faster than imports. Now, that is again correct because IT and related, related industries have helped us to export services, right? So the imports of services is growing lesser or lower than the exports of services. Now, next is imports of merchandise has grown faster than exports. Now, that is correct because when it comes to that of merchandise, when it comes to that of goods, our exports are lower than that of our imports, and the growth of imports have actually is higher than the growth of exports. So all these statements, all these trends are correct. All the statements given above are correct. Now, when you read economic survey, you need to pick up all these kinds of trends that UPSC is going to ask. Clear? So do try to understand, do try to learn all these important kinds of trends from economic survey. Now, 20 Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, which was introduced in Union Budget 2021, it is associated with reducing direct tax litigation. Now, the government gave an option for the people for who is having certain direct tax related litigation going on with the government. So instead of carrying out the litigation, government gave them an opportunity to pay their due, pay their taxes, right, without having to pay penalty or interest over the due amount. So all those people who have direct access dues, like if they make that particular due, they will have to pay interest, they will have to pay penalty, etc. And that is going to cost a very high amount, right? So government gave an opportunity for those people with income tax, direct income tax due. There was given an opportunity whereby they need to pay only whatever is due in their direct taxes. They need not have to pay any penalty or interest over the dues that they have. Clear? So that is Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Next is 40 plus 9 recommendations. It is associated with Financial Action Task Force. Now 40 plus 9 recommendation is related to that of combating money laundering and terrorist financing. So these recommendations are part of various studies conducted by FATF to understand different methods of money laundering, and these recommendations are given to the member nations, and member nations will be able to take necessary actions on these recommendations given by FATF. So 40 plus 9 is recommendations related to that of fighting money laundering and terrorist financing. And next is Osaka track mentioned in news. Is this associated with digital economy? Now Osaka track, it actually tries to deal with the matters related to that of digital payments in international trade. Now, digital payments or digital aspects in international trade means there are new kinds of laws which is being brought by different countries related to that of data localization, right, data storage, etc. So, Osaka track is actually to set rules and regulations related to that of data or digital payments in international trade. Now, in Osaka track, certain countries they want to actually let go of or to liberalize data localization, which is brought in by various countries. Even India have such a kind of a plan, and India have also certain regulations related to data localization. Now, India and some other developing countries such as that of South Africa have actually abandoned or they actually boycotted Osaka track. The main kind of reason given by them is that this Osaka track, all those kind of policies, all those kind of rules and regulations are mostly discussed between few countries and not in a wider platform. Most of the developing countries were not given a chance to participate in these kind of discussions. They were not allowed or they were not given a chance to contribute their point of view in that discussions. So as a result, most of the developing countries, especially India and South Africa, they said that these kind of discussions is against the mandate of WTO because the discussion took place among few countries. So that is related to Osaka, and that was how it was in news. Now, next is which of the following resources are not categorized as minor forest produce? Now, when you look into that particular question, the answer is very simple. It is 4 only. See, when it comes to bamboo, raisins, honey, etc., these are all considered as minor forest produce. See, minor forest produce means all those forest produce other than timber. So, non-timber forest produce, all the forest produce are considered as minor forest produce. So, except timber, all other can be classified as minor forest produce. So, answer is C. Now, 24, consider the following statements. Non-banking financial companies do not form part of payment and settlement system of RBI. That is correct. That is the major difference between NBFC and banks. When it comes to NBFCs, they do not form part of payment and settlement system. As a result, hence they cannot issue check, right? Then prompt corrective action framework is applicable to non-banking financial uh, companies. Now, do you think it's correct? No, it is not correct. It is not applicable to NBFCs. A prompt corrective action plan is applicable to both private as well as public sector banks, but not to NBFCs. That is wrong. Now, last question, circular economy, which is widely discussed. It is a common topic. It is in news. It is frequently discussed in all the important materials for UPSC. Circular economy deals with the sustainable waste management, right? Circular economy, it is the major idea is for reusing items instead of, you know, use, kind of we are promoting reuse attitude, that kind of reuse habit among the people, and we are kind of discouraging use and throw attitude of the people. Right. So all the items which becomes waste can be used for further production and further economic activity. For example, see, fly ash is a kind of, you might have read about this, right? Fly ash is waste generated, especially in thermal power plants. Now, this fly ash is used for construction of roads, right? And it is also used in the construction materials as such. So that kind of approach is a circular economy approach, whereby things are reused, and waste in one sector becomes a raw material in another sector. So that particular circle goes on. That particular cyclical thing happens, right? So that is circular economy. Now, so with this, we are closing down that particular discussion for test 23. Thank you so much. I hope you were able to solve this question paper very easily. And I wish you all the very best for the upcoming prelims. Okay, do well. Thank you so much. Have a great time.